Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and this is a 5-minute review of Empire State from 2013. The film stars Liam Hemsworth, Michael Angarano and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. The film is based upon true events, but unlike other films at the start, it doesn't tell you that straight away. What you get is some original footage showing the news report of what happened, which kind of spoils it because it gives the plot away. The film at the start tells you about the robbery of an armoured car depository and the fact that it came through the ceiling. Then the film begins and goes back to before this happened, focusing on two characters, Liam Hemsworth character, who is a young guy called Chris, and his friend Eddie, and both of these are young guys that are just trying to get a job and get by, except both of them are not really good at anything in particular. Eddie's a bit of a chancer. He's got a mouth on him which gets him fired and gets him into trouble. He also steals from his place of work. Chris wants to get into the police force, but because of a very old crime in the past, he has a criminal record from something minor, and therefore he's unable to join the force. So instead, he takes a job because he needs the money, working at this armoured car company. And at first, everything seems to be going well on the job. However, his partner is killed after a robbery that goes wrong. He's blamed for it, even though it's not particularly his fault. And he is then grounded, given the night shift where he has to guard the main building and just do nothing and just look at all the money that's piled up. There are problems with his family, problems with his father losing his job. Eddie's mouth is constantly running, trying to get him into trouble, talking to other criminals, talking himself up. And you can kind of see where the film is going. So the fact that he gave it away at the beginning doesn't really help. And then the setup is built in quite obvious way. Liam Hemsworth's character Chris is a good guy and he is trying to do the best that he can and be a good employee for the company. But after the way they treated the widow of his ex-partner, he thinks, well, why do I care so much? Why am I trying so hard? The inevitable happens, there's a robbery, they go through the roof, complications, and so on. The reason I've kind of skipped over the main story really quickly is that there are a couple of other big problems with the film. So let's start with a positive before we get to some of that. This film is from a few years ago, and The Rock is playing the role completely seriously. He's a cop who's investigating robberies. He knows something's going on. He's investigating the two main characters, Chris and Eddie. And as their lives begin to unravel, The Rock gets closer and closer to them and finding out what the truth is. There's no winking to camera. There's no great eyebrow. He's just playing it really straight, and he's really, really good. Also, the two main actors, Michael and Liam, are really good. You believe their characters, especially Eddie is the shady loudmouth who just can't help himself. And despite wanting to do the best, Chris is just tempted by all of that money. And who wouldn't be, especially with what's happened to him and other people around him. Now we come to the other problems with the film. Because it's so predictable, there's no surprise at any point during the film. There are one or two minor ones, but nothing that really made me sit up. It's the kind of film that you can kind of put on in the background and watch it. The other problem is, because it's based on a true story, if you knew what was going to happen, then the ending isn't going to be a surprise. I wasn't aware of the news story, and I think this is where they should have deviated from the real events. Because the film just ends in an unsatisfying way, really. It just kind of trails off. And then you get some additional footage from the real Chris, the guy who was sent to prison for this crime and so on, with him talking to camera. So if it's going to be based on a true story, say it at the beginning and play it out as close to the events as you can. If it's not going to be based on a true story or very loosely, then do something more interesting. Use the base material and tell a convincing story. What we get is something that's neither fish nor fowl. It's somewhere in between the two, and it just trails off, which left me bored and a bit annoyed. It's quite a slow burn film. There's only a little bit of action in it. A couple of moments of violence, but nothing really tense. So in the end, I'm going to give it 2 bags out of 5 and say it's passable, it's interesting in places, the acting is good, but overall fairly disappointing. So Have you seen Empire State? If so, get in touch with us. You can email us. You can come onto the Facebook group. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel.